লাইভ আছিস?
মা 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 এই দরজাটা টেনে দাও, এই দরজাটা টেনে দাও।
শুরু হচ্ছে, সাউন্ড পাচ্ছিস? সাউন্ড মানে ঠিকঠাক আছে?
তুমি ওই ঘরে বসে সামনে দিকে প্লিজ।
স্যার এবারে আপনি স্টার্ট করে দেবেন।
টেনে দাও।
Okay. Good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon, all the participants, our resource person in this national webinar. Good afternoon, my colleague, my students, research scholar, and other participants from media and abroad. Today, we have organized the national seminar on fake news and misinformation on social media under DST CRP project, organized by the Department of Computer Science at the Sagar University. Today it is the time of digital era. This era is predominantly driven by the internet, which is becoming the basic need for all the people. A few days ago, most of the people start their morning walk or morning by keeping a glance of daily newspaper. But day by day, this habit is becoming obsolete because of the internet and more especially social media. So we are getting the breaking news from the digital platform. The news also spread drastically by sharing on the social media, but this gives birth to a very terrific research areas to solve the issue related to fake news and fake news manipulation of this social media. In this connection, we have organized this seminar on fake news detection and fake image detection on social media under DST CRP project, organized by this department, Department of Computer Science. On behalf of this department, I welcome to all of you, all the participants, our resource persons, and all the students. Our digital world mainly consists of image, text, audio, and video. So news can be composed by all these content, or news can be of any one of these content. So easy availability of internet is acting as a catalyst to this demand. When we think about social media, the platform comes in our mind. The first one is Facebook. On the inspection in 2004, this platform has gained people attention exponentially. As of the December 2019, Facebook has 2.50 billion monthly active users, reaching at most 1/3 of the world people population. And as the time has progressed almost 16 years, this social media platform suffered from fake news severely. Although Facebook has revised its algorithm many times to filter out fake and misinformation, but today it has become one of the most prevalent social media in case of fake news discussion. The second social media platform that comes in the context of fake news is Twitter, because its power of sharing and power of rehashing of any news is greater and more than the other media. As of February 2019, Twitter has 321 million active users from the launch in 2006 This platform has repeated by fake news and misinformation gradually. Although in March 2020, Twitter has announced that it will start marking the tweets which may contain fake news or misinformation, and in some cases, it will provide fact checking page links. But this step cannot eliminate this problem. The third platform in this context is one of the most popular platform, which is Instagram. So this platform is used for sharing photos and videos. Instagram has 1 billion users as of the May 2019. So besides these three platforms, there are many social media platforms that are spreading fake news and misinformation, which includes YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, WeChat, Snapchat, LinkedIn, etc. So when there is no control over the sharing and lack of fact-checking tools makes the scenario more miserable. So it is fact that in social media, fake news travel much faster than the true news. The traveling speed increases drastically when it comes about the political news. Statistics shows that majority of the fake news on social media are political and news of the celebrities. So human behavior also play a major role, as most of the users forward the post or news article without checking the fact whether it's true or false. So in this scenario, we, the Department of Computer Science, organized this seminar, and there is a big reason for this fake news detection, that the research community as well as the social media platform are working on this fake news detection system. So we have in this today's seminar, today is the first day, and we have Professor Nilanjan Banerjee, our resource person, in this today's lecture. So may I request our faculty member, Mr. Prakash Kumar Singh, to introduce our first speaker in this national webinar, Professor Debanjan Banerjee. So, Prakash Kumar Singh, yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Professor Debanjan Banerjee to the audience present online in the today's national seminar on fake news and image detection on social media. Professor Debanjan is teaching and mentoring media management and communication studies both in post and undergraduate level for the last 16 years. He is the present HOD Media, NSHM College of Management and Technology, NSHM Knowledge Campus, Kolkata, India. He is also a visiting professor of Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute and Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India. Professor Debanjan has more than 22 years of industry and teaching experience, worked extensively for print and online media, and also hold the position of consulting editor of a business fortnightly, a regular feature writer in mainstream dailies, magazines, and international portals. Already authored 2 books in media and management for both undergraduate and postgraduate students of media and management, namely Media Speaks Management Matters and Justice and Journalist. He is also a leader writer in the field of business, media, economics, and management. Contributes to the research articles for international journals, magazines, newspapers, and online portals. So now may I invite Professor Debanjan Banerjee, author, speaker, political commentator, and professor, to give his invited lecture. Please, Professor Debanjan Banerjee, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think everybody can hear me. Everybody can hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Prakash Kumar Singh, for such a nice gesture. First of all, I would like to thank the Department of Computer Science, Vidyasagar University, for organizing such a pertinent and relevant topic at this point of time in your flagship program of 2-day national webinar on fake news and image detection on social media. So this is one of the most important topic in this at this point of time, precisely I can say. So I'd like to convey my heartiest gratitude to the department under the mentorship of Professor Dr. Vishwapati Jana and his team, comprising of Professor Prabhash Kumar Singh and Professor Debashish Patra, to host this such a wonderful topic, to organize such a wonderful topic under this prevailing circumstances. So, myself, Professor Devanjan Banerjee, today will speak on a very interesting topic based on the master theme, fake news and image detection on social media. The nomenclature of my today's presentation would be fake news, the deadliest malady in this global village. I repeat, the topic is fake news, the deadliest malady in this global village. So, I often quote, it gives me pleasure. Let me start with two famous quotation. Quotation number one is, comment is free, but facts are sacred. Comments is comment is free, but facts are sacred. Another famous quotation, the point of modern propaganda is not only to misinform or push an agenda, it is to exhaust your critical thinking, to annihilate the truth. I repeat the second quotation, the point of modern propaganda is not only to misinform or push an agenda, it is to exhaust your critical thinking, to annihilate truth. The first one is by the editor of famous British newspaper Guardian, Mr. C.P. Scott, written in 1921, and the second one by one and only Garry Kasparov, the famous Russian world grandmaster, writer, and political activist. So this two quotation is very, very important even at this point of time. Both the quotes are blatantly true in present context. We find the facts are often becoming false, distorted, manipulated, and spread over to trillions of people across the globe by using diversified media platforms in the name of fake news, just to serve the interest of the power corridor. So we often find on our media platforms, previously we had print, the newspapers dominated over the years. Later on, the transition took place from newspaper to television channel, and now at this point of time, at this present and crucial juncture, the social media or the diversified digital platforms. And if you go through these diversified digital platforms, we are all nowadays have become the heavy media consumer. Let me explain a little bit what exactly a heavy media consumer is. Like nowadays, what we do, we wake up with media, we take our breakfast with media, we go to office with media, in between our work we surf media. So I can say we can drink media, eat media, dream media, and sleep media. So media has become a part and parcel of our life. So every day, starting from reading half an hour newspaper, watching television channels in the prime time, in the evening at least 1 or 2 hours, our social media, our digital platform is almost 14 to 15 hours on, and the phone is in our hand, and we are surfing the media. While surfing this media, we become a heavy media consumer. The class boundary to become a heavy media consumer is almost 8 hours and onward. And basically, we consume media at this point of time more than 8 hours, maybe 10 hours or 12 hours. So we are all heavy media consumers. And what we do while consuming media, we often succumb with this fake news. Almost all the digital platforms are there, and if we start meticulously analyze the real statistics of the real news and the fake news, we often find that 40 to 50% news are not authentic. There are many sites are uploaded within 2 or 3 days. The content is prepared for within a couple of hours, and the content is uploaded on the site, and we are spreading this content. We are proliferating all this media content to hundreds and thousands of people without cross checking. So in fact, you can understand that news is very important in our life. So the news has to be authentic. So without any authentication, if we start spreading this news without cross check, this can become fatal. This can be extremely injurious for the society. And in fact, this injury is taking place over the years, especially during this COVID phase, like starting from the second or third week of March to till today. And we have all witnessed this lockdown phase. We were all confined at our home. We could not travel outside. We could not go to our schools, colleges, universities, offices. So we were all confined at home. And what we did, we consumed media at a stupendous proportion. And while consuming this media content, especially from the digital media, we started spreading fake news, because it is not our fault. The fake news is created, and we don't have that much of media literacy. Not that much people are not that much of media literate. They could not understand what is the real news and what is the fake news, what is the misinformation, what is the disinformation, and what is the malinformation. And without cross-checking this, they are spreading this news like a wildfire, and which ultimately resulted absolutely some kind of a catastrophe and calamity among the media consumers, because all the news are important, and if you start spreading a fake news or a false news, this could jeopardize the whole system. So before going to this, I would like to enlighten my students. Many students are there. Maybe some professionals are also registered. So this lecture is extremely important for the media students, media existing professionals, and the future media professionals. Not only media, even the people those who are studying political science, international relations, even those who are engaged in computer science, technological expertise. They are enhancing the technological expertise under the curriculum, like Department of Computer Science. Like technology is playing a very pivotal role while disseminating this information. So this kind of webinar is very, very important for you. So before I go in depth, let me introduce what exactly fake news is. I'm just requesting Dr. Jana
Yes.
to share the PPT which I have prepared for you,
Yeah.
because you need to know in nutshell, because my time is very less. It is 1 hour lecture. 1 hour is not adequate to explain fake news. So
Okay.
Dr. Jana, can you please share me the
Yeah. Yeah.
PPT?
Yeah.
Possible?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yes, sir. We are putting.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. So first, you need to understand what exactly fake news is. Please, the next slide, please, sir. Fake news, also known as junk news or pseudo news, is a type of yellow journalism or propaganda that consists of intentional disinformation or hoaxes spread via traditional news media, print and broadcast, or online social media. The fake information is often caused by reporters paying sources for stories, an unethical practice called checkbook journalism. This is a very unfair practice, and unfair kind of a journalism or unethical practice, that is called the checkbook journalism. Digital news has brought back and increased the usage of fake news or yellow journalism. The news is then often reverberated as misinformation in social media, but occasionally finds its way to the mainstream media as well. So fake news is a neologism often used to refer to made up news. This type of news, found in traditional news, social media, or fake news websites, has no basis in fact, but is presented as being factually correct. So try to understand, it is kind of an yellow journalism. It is being created just to make people fool. The creator has got a very bad intention. He or she has got a bad intention, just to spread this kind of news, to serve the purpose of some people are behind this. So this fake news is a neologism often used to refer to made up news. This type of news found in traditional news, social media, or fake news websites. Previously, it was a print media. Everything was dominated by newspaper, and you can understand, in case of newspaper, the spreading proportion was much less, right? So, but in case of this digital platform, if I get a news in the morning in my WhatsApp, without cross checking this, I can share it to 5 to 6 people, and again I can share it to in another 5 people. So within 1 hour I can share hundreds and thousands of people, and these hundreds and thousands of people can share to another hundreds and thousands of people, and this will become a kind of a chain, a malicious chain, a vicious chain, and this chain can be extremely detrimental if the information is wrong. So the next slide please. Now you need to understand what exactly the different types of fake news. We often find fake news, but we need to understand this is kind of a media literacy. Like I told you from the very beginning of my lecture, that nowadays we have become all heavy media consumers. Being a heavy
ক্লিয়ার
media
আসছে তো করতে
consumer,
যাবেন
you need to understand
আগে আমার
the
ক্লিয়ার তো
different types of fake news.
প্রথম
Cleared
মোবাইল থেকে
Wordlay, the
বাইরে
first draft news identifies 7 types of fake news. Try to understand there are majorly 7 types of fake news are. Number one is satire or parody. No, no, this kind of news is not going to harm anybody. The main intention is to make people fool. I repeat, satire or parody is a kind of a fake news which is not exactly harmful. It does not have the potential to harm anyone, but it has got the potential to fool people. The next one is the false connection, when headlines, visuals, or captions don't support the content. We often find on social media, on different digital platforms, that you get a news, the headline, what exactly written in the headline is not supporting the content. That means there is a huge amount of discrimination, huge amount of differences, huge amount of distinction between the headline and the content. The headline is saying one thing, but the content is saying something different. Maybe if you go through the content, the truth will come out. The exact news has been written in the content, but the way the headline has been written, it is completely different. Like the intention of the people, those who are spreading this kind of fake news, their intention that maximum people don't go into deep, they will never read the content. So I have to manipulate in the headline, I have to make the headline in such a way by which my purpose is served. So this is called the false connection, the second type of fake news. The third one is misleading content. This is another very extremely injurious kind of a stuff, injurious kind of a fake news. The main intention is misleading use of information to frame an issue or an individual. That means the intention is to mislead the public, the intention is to mislead the people against an individual or a group or a party or a society, even sometimes the country. So this is the third kind of fake news which is prevalent on social media. Next is number 4 is false context. False context, sorry, false context, false context. When genuine content is shared with false contextual information. When genuine content is shared with false contextual information. This is another kind of a very extremely harmful fake news. Next is imposter content, when genuine sources are impersonated with false made up sources. Genuine things are completely distorted, manipulated with false made up sources. These sources are not at all credible. The next one is the manipulated content, when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive, as with doctored photo. Exactly, the topic is dealing, the two-day national webinar is dealing with the image detection, when the creator is deliberately putting some doctored video, some doctored photo, some manipulated photo, some distorted photo on the social media. The intention is to harm, is to jeopardize an individual, a society, a group, a political party, a religious organization, even sometimes country is also the victim. So this kind of content is often present. These are the different types of fake news which are omnipresent on social media and tarnishing the real news. The last one, the fabricated content, when the content is 100% false, designed to deceive and do harm. So you can understand, according to Wordley, this 7 kinds of fake news are omnipresent on social media and tarnishing the real news. And we are all often succumbed with this kind of presentations. And you must understand that the presenter, the creator of these fake portals, the creator of this fake news, they are expert in designing. They will design and they will deceive you. They will design the content in such a way that it seems to be these are all correct, but in reality these are not at all correct. So these are all false informations which has been created, which has been designed in such a beautiful way and deceiving all of us. So these are the 7 kinds of fake news. Those are present on social media and almost all the digital platforms. So I repeat once more, all the students, all the future media professionals, try to understand this kind of fake news you often encounter while surfing the net through your smartphone, your laptop, your tablet, else your desktop. One is a satire or parody. Second is false connection. Third is misleading content. Fourth is false context. Fifth is imposter content. Sixth is manipulated content. And the last one is fabricated content. Sir, the next slide.
Yeah. Next slide.
স্যার আপনার এটি অ্যাকাউন্ট থেকে কেউ অন্য কেউ কি লগ ইন করে বসে আছে নাকি? ডিভাইসেস কি করে এটা কি ডিভাইসেস পদ্ধতি কি করে আমরা জানলে
widespread, but there was no standard of journalistic ethics to follow. By the 17th century, historians began the practice of citing their sources in footnotes. So Galileo, the famous philosopher and the scientist, Galileo is one of the greatest human beings the world has ever produced. Even he could understand the news has to be verified. Next, in the 19th century, now we are coming in the modern era. In the late 19th century, Joseph Pulitzer, on name the famous Pulitzer Prize, has been given internationally in journalism. And other yellow journalism publishers provoked the United States into the Spanish-American War, which was participated when the USS Marine exploded in the harbor of Havana, Cuba. That is also a fake news in the 19th century. Next slide, please, sir. In the 20th century, after or during the Second World War, after Hitler and the Nazi Party came into power in Germany in 1933, they established the Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda under the control of Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels. This is a very interesting phase of fake news. You all heard the name of Adolf Hitler. So the Adolf Hitler started a special ministry. The name of the ministry was a propaganda ministry, and he appointed one gentleman. His name was Goebbels. That was called the famous Goebbels theory. Like the Goebbels used to always highlight in a very positive way about Hitler's achievements. And the channel, the newspaper, all the media houses were used to propagate what exactly Hitler is doing, how much Hitler is great. Hitler is the greatest ever leader the world has ever produced. Under Hitler's regime, everybody will be happy. Hitler is the man. He is going to conquer the whole world. Nobody will be able to topple Hitler. Hitler is a great human being. He's a great warrior. He was a great statesman. So try to understand Goebbels' main intention is to propagate Hitler in a very positive note, and it was a completely manipulated content. Like you must be knowing the famous proverb that if you tell a lie for 100 times, it will become a truth. So this kind of propaganda in the name of fake news by using media was introduced by Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party. Even he created a ministry, the Public Enlightenment and the Propaganda Ministry, under the control of Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels. The Nazis used both print and broadcast journalism. On that point of time, there was no social media or the digital platform. The World Wide Web was not invented. So the Nazis used both print and broadcast journalism to uphold their agendas, either by obtaining ownership of those media or existing political influence. Throughout World War II, both the Axis and the Allies employed fake news in the form of propaganda to persuade the public at home and in enemy countries. The British political warfare executive used radio broadcasts and distributed leaflets to discourage German troops. Try to understand. We cannot only blame Hitler. Even the opponents, like the British, the Americans, the Russians, on that point of time, America and Russia was united. Everybody was against Adolf Hitler. So even the British government, the British political warfare executive, they used radio as their propaganda tool to broadcast and distribute leaflets to discourage German troops. That the German troops don't go into the war, you can't be able to beat us because we are all united. So that was also kind of a fake news. So this was the history of fake news in a nutshell. Next slide, please. Then definitely at this point of time, this global village, according to Marshall McLuhan, we are all the citizens of this global village. There is no geographical barrier on the digital platform. Everybody can access everything. The person who is staying at Australia, they can access the content of US. The person who is staying at Holland, in Amsterdam, he can able to access the content in Kolkata. So it has become absolutely global village. Like all continents are interlinked. A person can chat. The person who is staying at in Cuba, in Havana, somebody is staying at Buenos Aires, somebody is staying in Brasilia, somebody is staying in Canada, in Toronto, and that person can talk to a person who is staying in Tanzania. So the world has become this global village. So this 21st century in this global village, when there is a tremendous amount of social media aggression is going on, and the digital platforms are at rampant, and they are spreading news like a wildfire, proliferating news. everywhere. Within seconds, hundreds and thousands of informations are disseminated. And pertaining to the impact of fake news, we must be indebted to Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook. But being even the Zuckerberg could realize that this is going to harm the whole society. According to him, I think, I'm quoting Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook. I think the idea that fake news on Facebook influenced the election in any way, I think it is a pretty crazy idea. And then a few days later, he blocked that Facebook was looking for ways to flag fake news stories. So try to understand, yes, even he could realize that this fake news has been used by different political parties for their election propaganda. They're making some misinformation, disinformation, and spreading this misinformation among the public to influence the people in favor of them. So later on, the gentleman, Mr. Zuckerberg, realized, and he started coming up with some checkbox within the Facebook, how to counter, how to combat with this fake content. Many online pro-Trump fake news. You must be knowing the famous American election, Donald Trump. So even Trump was accused of spreading fake news. Many online pro-Trump fake news stories are being sourced out of a city of Wales in Macedonia, where approximately 7 different fake news organizations are employing hundreds of teenagers to rapidly produce and plagiarize sensationalist stories for different US-based companies and parties. So try to understand, even people are appointed, teenagers are appointed to spread fake news. The companies has been created to plagiarize content and spread this content on social media. At 2018, a research study at Oxford University found that Trump's supporters consumed the largest volume of junk news on Facebook and Twitter. So the way the Facebook and Twitter has been used by the American president to spread his concept, and it was proved to be correct also among the netizens. And naturally, you must be remembering Trump had a win over his opponent in the elections. The next slide, please, sir. Now, before going to this, the next important point is what are the roots of this fake news? Where from you can get the roots? When the internet was first made accessible for public use in the 1990s, its main rationale was for the seeking and accusing of information. Accessing of information. I repeat, sorry, I'm little first. When the internet was first made accessible for public use in the 1990s, its main rationale was for the seeking and accessing of information. As fake news was introduced to the internet, this made it difficult for some people to find truthful information. The impact of fake news has become a worldwide phenomenon. Fake news is often spread through the use of fake news websites, which, in order to gain credibility, specialized in creating attention-grabbing news, which often impersonate well-known news sources. Research has further shown that fake news injures social media and online-based outlets far worse than traditional print and television outlets. After a survey was conducted, it was found that 58% of people had less trust in social media news stories as opposed to 24% of the people in mainstream media after learning about fake news. So this is very interesting that even today, I can quote the very famous quotation that old is gold, new is suspicious. It is very difficult to spread fake news in print. Yes, in print also there are some instances of fake news. In case of television, there are instances of fake news. Even in radio, right now I mentioned about this British government's radio broadcast against the Hitler army. But try to understand, this social media is a platform that can be used to spread this fake news at rampant. So the people are nowadays are extremely apprehensive. Those who are very serious, media literate. Like if you ask me, I don't trust a very unknown news portal. I'll cross-check it from a newspaper. I'll cross-check from a magazine, authentic magazine. I'll cross-check the news from a credible television channel. And then I will cross-check from a leading news portal, which has got a credibility and they are doing business over the years. So the credibility of this online platforms are in stake because almost all the online platforms, barring a few, are very serious while spreading news. Rest, just get a news, just uploading the story without any cross check. So that's why the research has specifically told that fake news injures social media and online based outlets far worse than traditional print and television. That means fake news is coming through social media more and jeopardizing the credibility of the real news. So this is very, very important. Next slide, please, sir. Now it is about India, WhatsApp disinformation and political violence. Like even in our election also nowadays, the WhatsApp and disinformation and political violence has become rampant through this WhatsApp spread, through this disinformation. Even the political things are being is completely changed, turned in favor of one political party against the other political parties. Now you must be knowing that in the last election, 2019 election also, WhatsApp has been used indiscriminately by all leading political national parties. All the, I'm not mentioning the political parties, all the leading national political parties in their favor. Sometimes, okay, I am not opposing this. Definitely, you have every right to use the social media, the digital platform for your for your for spreading your agendas, your manifestos among the public. That is not a harm, but the way sometimes they did, they manipulated the content against their opponent political parties, gave some misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, manipulated information, doctored videos, sometimes which is very defamatory, which is very blasphemous against a religion, also against the country, even a society, also very, very malicious content they uploaded. So these are all unfair trade means which is being executed through these social media platforms, different apps. So even in West Bengal election, in all the assembly elections are coming up, and nowadays you must be knowing that Indians have become too much of net savvy. Everybody has their own mobile phone. They have their smartphones, mostly, especially in the urban areas, semi-urban areas, in some parts of the rural areas are also. Even all the political parties are spreading their concept, they are spreading their political manifesto, their agendas through these different social media sites. And so these are going on. So this is also, India is not an exception, being one of the largest democratic country, having politics in our in our DNA. In fact, every Indians are very much politically conscious, and once there is an election, politicians and the political parties are using this social media because they know that nowadays social media is being used, the digital platforms is used by maximum Indians. So these are the best way to penetrate the public. So the next slide, please. So I just read this from in fact, in 2019 elections have been dubbed India's first WhatsApp elections. This is a very interesting nomenclature. We have received this is a WhatsApp election, kind of a WhatsApp election. Like everybody is so influenced to WhatsApp, people have started casting their precious vote by checking their WhatsApp messages. Like one political party is defaming another political party by creating some content and spreading this content among his own supporters. The another political party is creating their content and against another political party, and this is being spread like a wildfire. So people used to say that this 2019 Indian election was a WhatsApp kind of an election, means that several ramifications could come about as a result. While disinformation campaigns are not new to Indian elections, a seismic shift in the Indian polity that must be understood. During the last elections in 2014, only 21% of Indians owned a smartphone. This is a very interesting statistics, that in the last 2014 elections, only 21% of the Indians, they had their smartphones. But at this point of time, ahead of the polls in 2019, that number is estimated to have nearly doubled. That means in 2029, almost 42% of the people use their smartphones. And the leap in access to technology, however, has not been matched by digital literacy, with many Indians dependent only on social media platforms such as Facebook and WhatsApp for news and information. The problem lies here when there is no harm to use digital platform. Indians are getting literate digitally, and the Indians are using much more technology. That is all positive points. But the problem is we have the smartphones, but we don't have the digital literacy. So the time has come that we have to be literate digitally. Otherwise, what we'll do, without knowing the facts, without doing any kind of a cross check. We'll be just using Facebook and WhatsApp forwards, and we will be sharing all this information without having our knowledge. And this could be extremely detrimental, and this could jeopardize the original news content. So I am almost on the verge of concluding my session. I have done a research on this, a research questionnaire I have made, and my research methodology was a descriptive research methodology, has been used in the study. Several newspapers, magazines, news portals, leading social media sites, Messenger and WhatsApp took into consideration while conducting this research. A survey containing open and close-ended questions was framed to find out the rampant increase and spread of fake news across the globe, especially in the subcontinent. A considerable 200 plus sample size in the in a division of sex, age, religion, literacy rate, and media awareness have been taken into consideration while doing the survey. Simple, random, stratified, cluster, and proportional sampling calculations meticulously conducted to derive the result. All media platforms like print, audiovisual, and new media, vis-a-vis social media platforms where fake news is omnipresent, are considered in the survey. Besides, another category has been evolved in the survey, like heavy media consumer, moderate consumers, and light consumers, to extract their awareness on fake news and how it spreads in a stupendous proportion across the globe, especially in Asia. So this is more or less the research methodology I have used while doing my research. I think I have 2 or 3 minutes remaining. So I should conclude in this way that indeed, sir, please show the last slide, the conclusion part. There's an examples I have included. I'll be requesting Dr. Jana later on, if some students are interested, they can click all these YouTube links and they'll be getting lots of fake news in reality. And that will be very helpful for the students and the future media professionals. And the last slide, please, sir.
Yes.
The last one. The conclusion one. The conclusion one. Okay. So, so indeed, I am concluding in this way that indeed disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation are proliferating and spreading like a wildfire and jeopardizing news from politics to business, from sports to environment, everywhere. No stone is unturned just to serve the vested interest of the power corridor. From US to Australia, from India to sub-Saharan countries, from Latin America to European Union, it has become like an epidemic, much dangerous than this pandemic, COVID-19. The real news is nowhere. It's fake news, traversing the globe like a globetrotter and completely annihilating the credibility of real news and journalism as a whole. On papers, many official nodal agencies are there to check such viruses throughout the world, but in reality, they never function, else they are succumbed in pressure, can't do anything, and behaves like a toothless tiger. If it keeps going like this, the so-called fourth pillar of democracy, popularly known as media, will crumble into pieces. Finishing with 2 popular quotes again: prevention is better than cure, and justice delayed is justice denied. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Professor Devanjan Banerjee, for his nice lecture and elaborately explain the fake news and how fake news has been developed, the root of the fake news, and their checking parameter, how the consumers can check which is the how the news are fake or not. By there are 8 cardinal principles: source, authors, cross-checking, date of publication, etc. And also root of the fake news. He explained nicely. So I again thanks Professor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now I would like request to the audience, if you have any question, then you can ask, or you can write on the chat box, or you can post in the YouTube channel, by which you can ask to our Professor Devanjan Banerjee regarding that. If you have any question, also you can unmute and can ask. I invite our audience, if you have
প্রশ্ন বাংলাতেও করতে পারো, যদি কোনো অসুবিধা হয় you can ask questions Bengali also. বাংলায় প্রশ্ন করতে পারো, কোনো সমস্যা নেই।
Yes, you can বাংলায় বলো যদি কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন থাকে, স্যার আছেন, নাহলেও একটা লিস্ট করে পাঠাতে পারো, উই ক্যান।
Any question from anyone?
So many participants are there on this Google Meet. In the Google Meet, lots of most of the time 100 participants are there in this Google Meet. Also in the YouTube, we have found most of the participants from India and abroad also. So nice discussion, nice presentation, and also it's a very great the slides, the informations are there very prominent to our audience. So I again thanks to our Professor Devanjan Banerjee for his this lecture to our audience about the topic fake news and image detection.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So I'll now we have another expert in this. Yeah, we have a okay, one minute. We have a feedback form. So, sir, you just wait. We have a token of appreciation from our side, so that has been shown in the screen. So,
Sir, should I wait or I can leave right now?
No, sir, wait, sir.
Okay,
so
thank you.
This is a token of appreciation from our side to you for this today's lecture. Also, all the participants have they have listened this lecture very carefully, and we will send this token of participation to your mail ID to sir. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now we will start our next presentation. We have Dr. Ruchira Noskor, another resource person of this webinar on fake news and image detection on social media. So Ruchira Noskor, the Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology, IIST, Shibpur. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
So, madam have quite busy, but she managed the time for this webinar. So I welcome on behalf of the Department of Computer Science with the University, and I may request our faculty member, Mr. Prabhas Kumar Singh, to introduce Dr. Ruchira Noskor to the audience for this webinar. Dr. Professor Singh, please.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Ruchira Noskor. She is an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology, Indian Institute of Engineering, Science and Technology, Shibpur, since 2019. Prior to this, she has been affiliated with NIT Rourkela for over 5 years. Her research interests primarily include security and cryptography. Presently, she is working in the domain of digital forensics. Dr. Noskor has over 60 publications in international journals and conferences, and has authored a number of books in security and forensics. She has been associated with multiple research projects as principal investigator funded by agencies including BRNS, DST, ACRB, CSIR, and TIKI. So may I have the opportunity to now call upon Dr. Ruchira Noskor to deliver his invited lecture. Madam, please.
Thank you, Professor Singh and Professor Jana. Thank you for having me here in your webinar. So this is a great opportunity. So sir, before I start, could I please know that who is our target audience? Like, are they BTech students, or so that I can plan?
Most of the students, maybe 80% of the students audience in this BCA, MCA, BTech and others, and few are the research scholars, and some others the assistant professor in different colleges.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you for the clarification. So all of them have computer science basics.
Yes, madam.
Quite well. Okay, sir. Thank you so much. So I shall start by presenting my screen, and in the meantime, I shall keep my camera off to save bandwidth. Is my screen visible? Sir, could you
Yes,
kindly
ma'am.
confirm? Okay, thank you. So, I have planned my lecture on my area of expertise as Professor Singh has already introduced. Thank you, Professor Singh, for the nice introduction. I have been working in the domain of digital forensics. My broad area of research is multimedia security. So the topic of the webinar is dealing with identifying fake news. So and as the previous expert has already pointed out those things in quite some nice detail, I was listening to his talk. So I do not need to give much introduction, I hope. So rather what I shall do is I shall directly start off with digital forensics. The topic of today's talk of mine will be applications of digital forensics in securing multimedia data. So as all of us, we are acquainted with this fact very clearly that no day in a common man's life in today's era goes without sharing some stuff online, right? Right from the beginning of the day till the end of the day, we are online. And not only we are online passively, but actively also we do a lot of things like we communicate, we share public data, right? We go through news articles. So we are always exchanging data, most of which are in form of multimedia like images and videos, etc. So multimedia security is something where I have been working quite for some time now, starting from my PhD. Then I was with NIT Rourkela Department of CSE. There also I was working in multimedia security. But a very recent trend, I would not say very recent, maybe over the past decade, maybe 10 to 15 years back, a particular field which started emerging is the field of forensics. Forensics is nothing but, you can say, a tool or a technique to solve security issues. So the issues and challenges related to security remain the same. Your tool is varied. We shall see what are the advantages, what was the requirement for which forensics came into the picture. So with that, I shall start my talk. So this is a brief overview of contents. I shall start with defining forensics. Digital forensics, if I want to define formally, like any other field of forensic science, it is the way of collecting, preserving, and analyzing evidences collected from a crime scene. So you have forensic experts with the police, right? What do they do? Some event has already happened, some crime has already taken place. Now you need to prove who the criminal is, or you need to prove that this person is innocent, right? So what do? We have not taken any precaution, but something has already happened, and now whatever evidence is left behind, we try to collect it, we try to preserve it, and then analyze it to move towards our aim of proving somebody criminal or innocent, right? Now, the field of digital forensics, it's a branch of forensic science which deals with the investigation of cyber crime. Instead of physical crime, we are more interested in cyber crimes. We being computer science people, right? So this particular field, digital forensics, it deals with analyzing evidences left behind in digital devices. So just like say you find it, you visit a crime scene as a part of forensic team, you find a bullet there. There is a dead body and a bullet the police has found. Now the traces left behind by the bullet, it is now analyzed and we try to map the bullet back to its source, the pistol or the revolver which was used. So our case, the digital version of this is analogous. You find some digital traces in your device after some crime has happened, and You analyze it for the purpose of catching that cyber criminal. So as we move on through the talk, things will get clearer that how exactly digital evidences might be helpful in proving or disproving cyber crimes. But as I said, first thing we need to answer is why forensics? Why not the traditional methods of security? There is a reason why. Here is the answer. In this slide, what you can see, as Professor Jana told, since all of us are having some background on computer security, you can see on this slide two block diagrams. One shows digital watermarking. These two are unrelated. These two are unrelated. I should have put more space here. So, and the second block shows the idea of steganography. These are not very detailed, just a top level overview of the working principles. So in digital watermarking, what do we do? We generate the watermark, and there is this file which needs to be protected, maybe an image you are capturing with your digital camera, and you want to put your watermark into it so that you can deal with the copyright issues later on, right? So this is a traditional technique. This does not belong to the field of forensic. This is not forensic technique. This is a traditional security practice. So what we do is, after generating the watermark, we embed the watermark into the file to be protected. Hence generate the watermark file, which is transmitted over the insecure channel. Now insecure channel means what? It might be the internet, it might be some route over your LAN, which is vulnerable to eavesdropping, right? Eavesdropping is what? Somebody who is illegitimately keeping a track of all communications over the channel, right? Snooping the channel. So that is my insecure channel here. It might be anything which is open to public access, right? Anybody can view it. So the watermark file is transmitted. Now at the receiver's end, this is the sender's end, and this one, it is transmitted over the channel, and this is the receiver's end, right? So the receiver's end, we have the file, the watermark file, which people might have viewed, but at least not modified, right? So watermarking is the solution to prevent modification attacks, or at least detect modification form of attacks, right? So this is the received file. If I am lucky, there would be no change. But if I am not, there has been an attack and some of the bits are flipped, changed or modified, right? So how to detect? From the received file, you extract the embedded data, you extract the watermark, and these two you match together and authenticate. Like this watermark was generated from this sensitive file, you embed it. Now this also is extracted from the received file, and these two are matched. If there is no modification attack, they will match bit by bit. If not, then there will be the mismatch. And that helps you to detect or say that there has been an attack or not. This is one case. You can say this is one case. The second case is another one practical case. Let us take up steganography. Here what we do, we are trying to protect this data, and there is a cover file within which we embed this data, isn't it? That is how steganography works. Stegano means cover and graphy means writing. So we cover. What we are embedding is to be protected. The cover file is not of interest to us, unlike watermarking. Watermark is not of interest. It is a tool. What is of interest to us is this sensitive file. So both these cases are two different cases, right? They are distinct. But see, there is something which is common. At the end, we'll discuss that. So the sensitive data is hidden into the cover file. Hence, we generate the stego file, transmitted over the insecure channel, reaches the receiver's end. The receiver receives the stego file, probably modified, and extract the hidden data, right? And also get back the original file. So this file is obtained back. Now, if there is any modification, the file will not match with the original one, right? So what is taken care of here? The security issue that you are trying to prevent or address is confidentiality, right? Confidentiality. So nobody can view the sensitive data, whereas here everybody can view it. But if there is any modification, you detect it. Here, modification cannot be detected, but you have ensured that nobody can view the covered, what is embedded within the sensitive data, embedded data. So here, what exactly are you doing? You are preserving integrity. So you will tell that this is modified, so I am not going to accept it, right? The aims are different, the techniques are different, but did you notice there is something common? That commonality is the pre-processing involved. So in both cases, we are assuming that there might be some attack, a modification attack, or simply a traffic analysis attack, a snooping attack. And hence, we are taking some precautionary measure in form of pre-processing. We are assuming that there might be some attack. We are taking some precautionary measure. That is common for both cases. You take up encryption, you take up hash, all the protocols, the security protocols that we learn, that we use in day-to-day basis, each one involves a certain precaution based on which later on you might do post-processing, or you might prove that this is authenticated, you might decrypt and read the value without a third party being able to see it, and whatever else. But the first thing is you need to assume that there is some attack that might be delivered. Now, in real life, is that practically feasible? You upload something on a social networking site, you do not ever assume that 10 years down the line, that data might be exploited. And we are facing this issue. People who are related to media, maybe our first expert, they can give you evidences of it. Even if you go and check online, you will see lots and lots of such cases. Now what? Suppose you are, just give me a moment. Huh? আমার একটা talk চলছে একটু পরে যাচ্ছি okay. So sorry for the interruption. Now suppose in practical life, in real life, you don't have a high-end digital camera, right? You don't have a high-end digital camera where there is a specialized embedded chip. No, you don't have it. So what will you do? You capture a snapshot, you capture an image, and you use it without any hint that later on this might be exploited. Because see, this kind of pre-processing, this kind of embedding of watermark, this involves this involves some specialized hardware chips. Maybe your camera, you did not presume that this might happen, and your camera is a general point and shoot camera, a digital camera, right? So then what? Is there any way by which you can later on say that, okay, this image is not authentic, probably, maybe with some certain accuracy, 90% chance this image is not authentic? Is that possible? Yes, it is. Recently, a much younger branch of security has come up, which we call forensics. We are going to deal with digital forensics in this talk, right? So digital forensics, as you can see, to keep the slide simple, what I have shown here is there is a sensitive file which you want to protect. It is being transmitted over the channel, the insecure channel. So there is, you can see, there is no pre-processing involved, no pre-processing at all. The file, say the image, it is vulnerable completely. It is opened up, and it gets forced possibly. Right, it is possibly forced. Your analysis should be 100% post-processing based. Right? Completely based on 100% post-processing based computation, you identify if there is a forgery and maybe few more detail about the forgery. This is the idea, this is the operating principle of all forensic techniques that are there. This is the whole idea of having forensics as a separate branch of security. Alright. So with that, I shall stop the introduction and maybe I shall speak about some prevalent problems which need attention in the current day, and people are trying to find forensic solutions to them and has been successful up to some extent, but there are lots of open problems. So the takeaway would be there are researchers also in our audience, so they can have a knowledge of what are the open problems in this domain, and for students you can have a very clear picture of what are the problems that people have successfully been able to solve using forensic techniques. So that is my idea. If there is any doubt, you can stop me at any point of time. See, here comes our first example. This is a snapshot from a newspaper, and the title of the slide is doctored image, a term in the last the term which you have come across in the last talk as well. Doctored image means, see, this particular image, the top one, this is an altered or a forced image. This looks natural, but this is not a natural image. How have they created it? They have taken three different pictures and very intelligently they have merged together different objects from three pictures or three images and created one image, right? A fictitious meeting between President Clinton and Saddam Hussein. It was generated digitally by altering and combining elements from three different photos, right? We have collected this image from this particular paper. Very interesting. You can go back and see. See, this paper is around 17, 18 years old. So this is the time when this particular branch gradually started emerging. This is one of the very preliminary papers. Anyway, so here you see the first problem. This problem is artificial compositing of images. Okay. This problem is called artificial compositing of images. Many times this is also called a splicing attack. Now splicing is used in the film industry a lot of times. You see the green screen here at the background and we all know this, right? It is called CGI, computer generated imagery. Many techniques are evolving and they are in place already and they are evolving continuously. But this, when done with a malicious intention, it leads to a cyber crime. And we, the forensic analysts, are here to tell that, okay, this image is given to you. Is this image a natural image or a computer generated image? I hope you understood what the problem is, right? The other problem, what could be the probable solutions? I shall give you some hints, not the technical detail, I won't go into in much depth, but how you can solve it, some hint you will get. First, let us understand what are the problems that might be solved in the forensic domain, what are the problems that people are trying to address now. The second the second class of problems is called copy move forgery. It is also called region duplication attack. Can you guess that what the attack is exactly? See this image. This is a natural image, right? This one is a forced image. This is a natural image. This is a forced image. What is the change? This object, right? So if you see, this object is nothing but one of these three missiles that has been copied and somewhat modified, you have a lot of low cost image editing software or tools. So using such a tool, somewhere near the tail it has been blurred and the color has been, or the brightness has been changed here and there, and it has been pasted onto the same image. It leads to a wrong piece of information being conveyed by the image, isn't it? Suppose there is a sea beach and there was a person there, you simply copy a part of the sand and put it over the person object. So what will happen? Because of the uniform texture of sand, it will get covered. It will appear as if the entire image is, it appears to be very natural, perceived through human eyes, you cannot detect. But this is something which, if done with malicious intention, can be hugely detrimental, right? So this is yet another problem. And if you notice, these two problems, these two are different problems. Why? Because here in this image, objects from multiple sources have been combined. Whereas here, objects from the same source has been repeated or obscured. You can even hide. That is also a form of copying forgery. So repeated or obscured. So this particular class of attacks becomes more difficult to be detected. Can you guess why? Because in this object, this particular object, which is the forged object, the natural statistical properties of the image are retained or preserved. Whereas in this case, if we analyze the image and we find out its statistical properties, like maybe the color histogram, color correlations, etc., you will see this part, it is different, this part would be different, this human being, this object would be different. Why? Because they belong to three different sources. So still compositing of images is easier to detect as compared to regional duplication, where the objects originate from the same source. Right. You can see here, if this is an example where the object is repeated, here is an example where an object is obscured. In the original picture, two trucks, military trucks, somewhere stuck in the mid of a deep foliage, a forest, right? So somebody has captured the image from a top altitude. So there were two trucks, and later on, when producing this image to the officials, the person has very intelligently covered up the second truck. So it appears that only one truck was stuck there. So what happened to the people who were there in the second truck, we don't know, and that does not matter, right? That is the whole target. So copying of forgery might involve repetition of objects, it might involve obscuring of objects as well, right? Now, as I was telling you, not only the problems but also some of the solution principles might be helpful to the audience. I thought that is why I'm trying to give you a hint of what could be the probable solutions, like in this particular cloning attack or regional duplication or copying forgery attack. The simple idea is exhaustive search. In exhaustive search, what can you do? You can simply divide the entire image into blocks. Keep one block as reference, move block by block along rows and along columns and rows, and hence try to find out that where there is a match. See, this part actually has been copied from here. So if there is this copying, then these blocks are bound to match. And maybe you can take a threshold, at least this much area matches, you can say, you can predict that, okay, these two are copies of each other. Which one is duplicate, which one is original, we have no way to say, but at least we know that there is a duplication, right? If at least this much of the area matches and the surrounding ones also match, then probably it is not by chance duplication, but it is actually intentional duplication, right? So that is the idea, Right. So then there are various variants of it, like correlation. The blocks are correlated based on some machine learning features, exact matching, robust matching. So these are some algorithms which have been proposed in the recent years for detecting copy move forgery attack. Right. So maybe I can share the slides if anybody is interested, and you can have an idea of how exactly these algorithms work. And also online, you have a lot of resources. The next problem is a format specific forensic investigation. Identification of JPEG inconsistencies. Now, we know that JPEG is probably the most common format of images, right? JPEG probably is the most common format of storage of images. You are using a digital camera or you are downloading some image. So it is normally stored in JPEG format, right? So, আমার একটু time আছে। হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ। Okay, so sorry for the interruption. Okay, so JPEG, as we know, is probably the most common form of image storage. Now, attackers are intelligent and they have exploited certain characteristics of JPEG and they have carried out some attacks. Side by side, we need some forensic investigative techniques. So look at a very interesting instance here. This was the original JPEG image. Okay, and this is a very famous image processing test image. It's called Lena. In 1970s, it was published in magazine, and then later on it was used very hugely in image processing jobs. Do you know why? Because the natural statistical properties are very strong here, like the color histogram, what it should be in a natural image, that was perfectly matching, almost perfectly matching. So that is exactly why this image people have used hugely, and also I have used here for my example. So we have generated this example ourselves. What we did here, this is an image, probably an attack is going on. We have not tampered the image as such, but shown the effect of the attack. So this portion of the image you can see here, from here it is extracted, and the attacker would do some manipulations and put it back into the same place, same location within the entire photograph, right? Though we have not done any modification, maybe we can draw a tattoo here, right? So it becomes an artificially generated image, which your naked eyes cannot figure out. It appears to be perfectly alright. But in the process, what happens? JPEG is a compressed format of image storage. Everybody of us, we know. So what happens is the quality factor of the original image and the quality factor of the forced region, they get changed. So this part is quality factor 2, and let us say this one is 1. These two are different. Why this happened? Because of this extraction, subsequent manipulation, and then placing back into the same source. Everything looks fine, but there is a difference in quality factor. Now, forensic analysts have very intelligently used this fact. We recently have published a paper where we did this. We simply took the image, this one, the forced image. We compress the forced image at some different quality factor. You can see QFX. X is not equal to 1 or 2. X might be equal to 1 or 2 as well. Does not matter. That is why I have written X. It might be 1, 2, some other 3. A different quality factor altogether. Does not matter. This technique is going to work. We compress the image, the entire image, with quality factor X, and subtracted from I. This one, this is I. This, when compressed, gives you IQFX. I hope I'm clear on that. IQFX is the compressed version of this image I. This one is I. We took the difference and we did this quite a number of times, maybe 10 or more number of times. We saw that 10 is sufficient, right? And when we viewed this difference image D on our machine, we saw that some grayish pattern has gradually started appearing. And why did this happen? Because at the base there was a difference in quality factor, and when you compress it more and more and more, you take the difference wherever there is no difference in quality factor, it will give you 0, but other places some gray pixels start appearing, and as you increase the power, this difference becomes more and more evident, right? This in the literature is very commonly called ghost image, right? So I have provided the algorithm which we proposed in our paper here. If you are interested, you can go through it. But this is what the problem is, and this is the solution approach, right? So this is yet another forensic problem which has been solved. Now what remains to be solved here? What remains to be solved is if there is triple compression, then what happens? If the rest of the part also a person compresses at a third compression ratio, then there is no way by which you can detect. Hampers the entire process. So till now, we have very good forensic techniques to detect double compression based JPEG forgery. For triple or higher compression, people are working. It's under process. This is yet another open problem in this domain. With that, I come to the next forensic problem. Laws for almost all nations have changed, and electronic evidences are considered to be sources of primary evidence. I mean, electronic data or electronic files are treated as primary sources of evidence, right? But before you can consider, that is accepted now, that has been made legal now. You can look at this source, right? Check this source out. However, it is not in physical form, therefore some additional precautions need to be taken. What are those? Number one, before production, forensic analyst won't have any say here. But second, is the evidence authentic? That means the person who is claiming to be the actual source, is he the actual source, or he is being falsely claimed, falsely charged, accused? Second, what he is providing, is it original or duplicate? So this problem we have already seen, right? In copy move forgery or computer generated images or spliced images, we have seen some techniques which can give you some idea whether it is forged or not. A JPEG image. The second one we have already addressed. What about the first one? Authentication means source authentication. I provide an image to the court of law. I'm a lawyer, so I provide it and say that, okay, see, this is an evidence to the crime that happened recently. Now, this person is the owner of this image. Now, is this statement correct? Before production of electronic evidence, you need to prove or disprove this. That is the first question, right? The later steps are taken care of by the legal experts. But first you need to prove it is authentic or not, the source is correct or not. I shall show you one slide that will help you in understanding this even better. On the left side of the slide, here, what can you see? There is a bullet, what I was talking about, a bullet found at a crime scene. Now the question of the forensic analyst is this bullet fired by revolver 1 or 2 or 3? This is a very common problem we have seen, all of us know, right? And they do certain kinds of forensic analysis based on what? Based on the artifacts or marks left behind by the bullet, which the scratch marks. They help the forensic analysts who are working in the police force to say or to determine the source is revolver 1, 2, or 3, or some other source, right? These three probably are the major persons who are being accused, major suspects, right? So who actually had fired the bullet? This is a very common problem in physical forensic world. An analogous problem exists in the digital forensics domain. Look at this, in the right hand side part of the slide. Here is an image, a contentious image, which was probably found related to a crime scene, right? A contentious image or image under question. And this was captured maybe 2 years back. Now the case is here, and I need to prove the authenticity. I need to authenticate the image. That means I need to map it to its correct source. Suspected that these three probably are the sources. One of these is the correct source, but I need to prove it. This is called this is known as the very famous forensic problem of camera source identification, right? So here again, just like the previous cases, I would try to give you an idea about what the solution approach might be. What is done is classification is performed here. So, in practice, this is modeled as a classic machine learning classification problem, where you simply generate training data. How? With each of these three suspect cameras, you capture hundreds or maybe thousands of images. Okay? Then create a machine learning model, which one you will train using the features of these training samples. And finally, this is your test, this acts as your test sample. Features are extracted, fed to the trained model. The trained model will match the features and tell you that, okay, this has indeed been captured by this particular model, camera model. This is the solution approach people have found out till now. Now, there are some open problems here, which might be of interest to you all. That is, first of all, can I guarantee that the suspect is actually, he belongs or he or she belongs to this set, not somebody else? It might be the case that we are suspecting 5 people, but none of these 5 is the actual criminal. It was indeed captured by some other camera model, which I don't have access to. I have not yet suspected, right? What will be the consequence? Consequence will be very dangerous. The consequence is, as you know probably, machine learning models, when you train it with some features, they are bound to map it to some of the classes, known classes. So you have 3 classes or 5 classes here. Even if it is captured by some external source, it will forcefully map it to one of these 3 or 5 classes. What will it lead to? Acquisition of an innocent. These 5 people were innocent. But if you are relying on your machine learning model for source identification or source classification, then you are bound to say that, okay, one out of this is the criminal, even though he or she is not. This problem is called the unknown model problem. This camera model is unknown or inaccessible. Unknown model problem. Okay, so this problem is still now open, or it is also called the open set challenge. In set theory, you have the open set. These are known, and one class is there which is not known or not accessible. So this leads to the open set challenge, right? So this is something which needs immediate attention, and we have done some work towards this direction very recently. If you are interested, you can see my website. You'll find some work, interesting work there. Next, suppose these 3 are suspects, not yet proven to be guilty, right? What if they say that I can provide access to my camera? See, you have not proven that I am guilty, I am the criminal. Still, to cooperate in your analysis, I can give you access to my camera, but for a limited period of time. So you don't have time to capture thousands of images, right? But if some of the images, some of the camera models, you have only 100 images, for some you have thousands, for some you have maybe 5 to 10. So the number of levels is limited. It's called the limited levels classification problem in source camera identification. Also, this gives rise to the unbalanced dataset problem because some classes will have few training samples, some classes will have a higher number of training samples. So there will be a biasedness, right, when you train the model. These will crop up. These are some inherent problems with any machine learning model, which now pose big threats here because these are forensic problems we are trying to solve. And please, I mean, I want to make a note here that in these kind of problems which are related to highly sensitive issues, what happens is the culprit goes without punishment is one thing, but an innocent is charged falsely as the criminal is even worse. So you have to keep both things in mind. It is not only that, okay, if one of these persons is the criminal, so I'll catch him or I shall not. No, it does not stop there. You also have to ensure that no innocent person is accused and punished. Better leave the criminal. That is what the court of law, that is the principle that is adopted. You can read stuff on that, right? So both the things you have to take care. So I hope I could give you some idea about the camera source identification problems and the related open problems, the open set challenge, the limited levels classification, as well as unbalanced dataset problem. So we have discussed the major forensic problems which are under light currently. Before I stop, I would like to tell you something about counter forensics. So today it is not only sufficient to know about forensic techniques, but counter forensic attacks also are prevalent. So these are nothing but attacks against forensic techniques. Let me, instead of defining, let me show you a slide because we don't have much time left. See, seam carving is a form of counter forensic. This is a counter forensic attack, a very widely practiced counter forensic attack. I told you about the problem of source camera identification. Seam carving is an attack against the prevalent forensic source identification techniques. Understand this. Okay. What it does is it simply deletes some pixels. Which pixels? Pixels belonging to seams. Now what is a seam? Seam is a connected path of pixels with least variation from the surrounding. Least variation from the surrounding. A vertical seam connects pixels from top to bottom with horizontal offset less than or equal to 1. So here you have an image. Your seam will consist of pixels like this. So the offset is 1 or more. So it can be in right direction or left or simply straight, right? The idea is this path of pixels without any variation, and it is a linked path, you can see, it is least variant from the surroundings. Now what happens if you remove this pixel altogether, this path of pixels, seams altogether? What will happen is your classification model is not going to work. So the identification of source is going to be wrong. Why? Because these machine learning classification models, they utilize noise residuals. Okay. So you can see noise residuals within an image. PRNU noise residuals of images are used. The image, this is the image. Image is denoised with a filter, denoising filter, DF stands for. you subtract it, you have the noise residual. So image denoised, the difference gives you the noise residual, right? Noise residual of an image is actually what is done is linked or related or correlated with sensor pattern noise of camera. Every camera has a sensor, and every sensor has a particular sensor pattern noise, SPM. So that sensor pattern noise, and if an image is captured by that particular camera model, the image's noise content, PRNU noise content, these two will be highly correlated. Now, once you remove a scene like this, once you remove scene connected path of pixels from your image, what happens is this correlation, PRNU and noise and SPN, sensor pattern noise correlation, that gets hampered. And as a result, what will happen? Image belongs to the camera. Only by removing a seam, a path of pixels, it is unable to map itself back to the camera sensor, basically. This is a form of counter forensic attacks. So these attacks are not modification forms of attacks against images or exploiting the multimedia contents. No. These attacks are attacks against the forensic technique. So one step ahead. Many times it is done with malicious intention by the attackers. Many times we do counter forensic attacks, analyze counter forensic attack strengths with the purpose of kind of ethical hacking to strengthen the forensic techniques that are in place even further. You can see, coming back to the definition, counter forensics is, or anti forensics also it is many times called, is a branch of science that deals with misleading or bypassing the existent forensic analysis to detect presence of forgeries. Counter forensics challenge the existing methods of forgery detection and assesses their limitations. And this could further help in improving and strengthening the existing techniques against intelligent counterfeiters. So it might be done with illegitimate modification, but forensic analysts cannot turn their face away from counter forensics. You need this. You need this to check how strong your forensic protocol is. Right. So with that, I think I would end my talk. I had some plans in describing one of our works recently done in counter forensics, but I'll drop that and share the slides with the organizers so that if you want, you can have a look. Right? So I think I would stop here with a brief conclusion that future research in the direction of digital forensics would involve formulation of counter forensic measures to assess their strength as well as anti-counter forensic measures to combat the counter forensic attacks. So this, to conclude, is an area which needs a huge attention presently. We have, since the last 10-15 years, we are forensic people are working, and right now the call of the hour is contribution in counter forensics domain. So I think I'll end the talk with that, and maybe we can take a few questions from the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ruchira Noskor, for her nice presentation about digital forensic. She nicely explained the watermarking, steganography technique, authentication, and camera source identification, where counter forensic is also an important issue. And our most technical part is the noise residual. She explained nicely that also some part. So basically, it's a good presentation regarding the digital forensic, which is essential to identify any image is real or it is tampered by others or not, and which is nowadays extensively used for the fake news detection and fake image and news detection in social media. So it's quite relevant to this webinar. So again, I thanks to Dr. Ruchira Noskar for her nice presentation on this webinar. And now I invite some questions from our audience. If you have any question, so you can ask to her, or you can write or raise your hand, or also on YouTube you can put your question, please. Okay, is there any question in YouTube? No. Okay. Yes, there is, madam, there is one question.
Yes, sir. Can meme creation fall under this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, today we see a lot of memes, right? See, I don't know. This kind of works. The major application domains are highly sensitive applications like legal industry, military industry. So, of course, if you want to prove that, have I stopped presenting?
But that's not really.
Yeah. So if you want to prove the source of a meme who has actually created it, yes, you can. You can go for implementing all those highly computationally intensive algorithms. You can, but I feel personally, no one would want to put in so much effort and so much computational cost to just prove that okay, the meme is originating from this source or that one. So that is my personal take. Otherwise, if somehow tomorrow a single meme even gets related to a legal case, then yes, this is going to work because those are what ultimately at the end of the day these are nothing but multimedia files, image files. So yes, it will be applicable. But think about the requirements. We need to think about the requirements.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, thank you, madam, for
Thank you.
your nice presentation and nice lecture and regarding our digital forensic. So once I again thanks to you on behalf of the Department of Computer Science, and thanks all the audiences. Now, token of appreciation are presenting here for Dr. Ruchira Noskar for this nice presentation and uh, contribution in this seminar.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
madam.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. So today we would like to end the session fake news and image detection day one, and we have a feedback form, and I request all the participants to uh, provide your data on the feedback form. Today's feedback link is here on the chat box, and then we'll provide a certificate to all of you, and also we'll come back on tomorrow on the same time 2:30 p.m. So I um, I would um, close the session today, and till you are not, you just fill up the feedback form. We're waiting for you. Link is there on the chat box. You fill up this form, and after that I will close the session. Thank you all. Thank you, our resource person. Thank you, participants. Thank you, uh, the audience, students, research scholar, faculty members of the different and organization. And thank you to all. Thank you, all of you. You just fill up this form. We'll active this. and also you join tomorrow at the same time 2:30 p.m. We have another two resource person regarding this fake news and image detection. Also, we have a technical session, programming part on the using Python, how we can detect the fake images. We will show that part, how the image will be detected, tampered has been detected using the Python, and also news on the fake news, how it can be detected. There is also another experts, Dr. Manjira Sinha from IIT Kharagpur, and Kaushik, Professor Mondal, yeah, Kaushik Mondal from ISM Dhanbad. And so all are requested to join at the same time tomorrow. So I would like to close this session now. Thank you again to all of you. Thanks. Thank you.